For more now on the Gauteng Finance and Economic Conference, we are joined by Kganki Matabane, Chief Executive Officer for the Black Business Council. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Julian, and good afternoon to the SABC News viewers.
What are you hoping for to come out of the Gauteng Investment Conference today to boost investor confidence?
Julian, remember, Gauteng constitutes 33% of the GDP of South Africa. So if Gauteng sneezes, the whole country will catch a cold. And also, not only the country, even the continent. So Gauteng is very, very, very important for the economy of South Africa. So if there's an investment in Gauteng, that will affect positively the entire South Africa. So we are hoping, I think, as the Black Business Council, that we will be able to encourage a lot of investors to South Africa, especially also now from other countries that are, for example, from BRICS. We've got the African Continental Free Trade Area. That will also, in a way, counterbalance what is happening in the United States. It's important that South Africa will then have to look at other markets, a market outside the US, the market in the European Union, market in the BRICS countries, Russia, India, and then China, and so on, and encourage them to come to South Africa and basically start their factories here. As we know, we need jobs in South Africa. We've got almost like 50% of joblessness. It's important that we encourage other countries to come and invest in South Africa, specifically in Gauteng, because it will then improve the entire economy of South Africa.
Let's chat a bit about the budget. Are there any specific sectors where the BBC expects this budget framework to create opportunities or challenges for Black-owned businesses?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we were expecting the minister to announce some sort of a seed capital for the transformation fund that the Minister Tao has spoken about, but that didn't happen. Yeah. And hence we were a bit disappointed with that. And then we were hoping that will assist small businesses, Black businesses with funding, because as you know, the biggest challenge that we're facing is access to funding. Without funding, you can't do much. You can't expand, you can't grow, you can't do anything. There's a positive part, which is investment in infrastructure.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there as well, we're not hearing this for the first time. I'm sure you've heard it before, where people were talking about we need to make sure that South Africa becomes a construction site of the world.
Yes.
And the money and provision for the money has always been put there, but there's no action, there's no implementation.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that we need to start basically stopping too much talk, start implementing what we're talking about, because even if we implement 5% of what we're talking about, we'll have been far. So it's very, very important that we need to, as a country, we need to stop the slogans and start implementation. The budget, I think, as far as the infrastructure is concerned, looks very, very good. But again, it can look good on paper, but if there's no implementation, then what do you do? Nothing will happen actually.
And how prepared are your members to adapt to these potential economic shifts resulting from the framework? And what support would they need from government or from the Black Business Council?
Yeah, the support that we always need is access to funding, but we also need access to procurement opportunities. And again, the minister, in our view, failed to give us deadlines, because remember, there's something called the Public Procurement Act that was signed by the president. But to implement it, you need what we call the regulations. And unfortunately, the minister did not give us a timeline to say when are the regulations going to be finalized by the National Treasury so that they can be implemented. Because there are very good things in the Act, like what we call set aside. So what you can do now, you can then say, I'm setting aside a certain percentage of the state procurement for young people. And then, for example, if you are doing an RDP house project, you can then say, all the window frames will come from young people, which means what you do, that tender is only going to be young people competing, so that you know the person who's going to be, or the company that's going to be appointed will be young people. So it's important that we need to speed up the implementation of that act so that it can replace the current act where you are not allowed to do the set aside. So we were very disappointed with the minister because we thought the minister was going to then come and say, this is the deadline, by this date we will implement the Public Procurement Act.
I just want to sneak in one more question on those tariffs. We discussed it earlier, and as you said, there would be now the opportunity, or at least more encouragement, for South Africa to lean more on their BRICS partners and hope to develop those trade relationships. The one concern that I have, and what I'm not clear on, and hopefully you can clear this up for me, what happens to the AGOA agreement? That obviously precedes what's happening now. Would the AGOA agreement still be in place for certain goods?
Yes, we are not clear as we're speaking now, but okay. we're still busy lobbying for that, lobbying various people in the US.
Yes.
And as you know, the government is also arranging a delegation that will include business people, will be part of that, to go and lobby for the continuation of the AGOA. But
yeah,
with what happened last night, no one is
nobody's clear.
President Trump is very, very unpredictable. He has created so much anxiety, so much instability, so much unpredictability. But again, in business, you have to work with what you have.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to change President Trump, but we have to work with what we have. We have to work with him. But for us, it creates opportunities for us to look at different markets.
Yeah.
We have to look at also ourselves. We need to strengthen South African market to industrialize more, to localize more, so that we don't depend on other markets. But it's very bad for globalization.
Yes.
As you know, the world has become one, but what Trump is doing is basically encouraging people to be more nationalist than ever. But there are always, in any crisis, there are always opportunities. And we would like to focus on the opportunities, and let's take those opportunities and run with them.
Thank you so much, Kganki Matabane, for your comments and your input on that. He's the Chief Executive Officer for the Black Business Council.